So, to start off 2013, I definitely wanted to check in with my good friend Monica Cost, who is not only a brand strategist, she is a motivational speaker, and she is an author. And I love the title of your book. I think I've told you it's one of my favorite titles, I think, of a book, and it definitely makes you want to read more. But it's Things I Do to Make Myself Sneeze.
Close. The
Okay.
things we used to do to sneeze.
But we don't do it anymore?
Well, hopefully the things we used to do are not the things we are now doing to give ourselves these sensations.
All right. Well, this is why I call Monica, because Monica is an expert on helping people live their authentic lives, whether you are a celebrity or you're just an everyday person. Everybody needs to live out their truth. And Monica, that is what Monica does, and that's what Monica specializes in. So start us off and explain to us what authentic living is.
Yep. So authentic living basically is coming out of living out of labels. So it is just living in the pure truth and not out of the expectations of others, but from your core, right? Most of us think we know what our value system is, but when we say what our values are, we look at how we're living and the things that we believe, they don't often align because how we're living is usually based upon the values of society, our parents, co-workers, because there's just too much pressure. So oftentimes we don't take the time to understand what we really think and feel and then how to live that out.
And that was one of my biggest questions. I mean, we get bombarded with so many messages every day, whether it's, like you said, our parents, our teachers, our friends, media, celebrities. I mean, how do you kind of sift through it and decide, like, what is your truth? How do you get to it?
It's a process, and the first thing you have to do is just really think about, I often tell people, look at what your pet peeves are or what gets you on a soapbox. There are certain things that, my good friends know that, if that topic comes up, they're like, oh, gosh, why did you bring that up? Here she's about to go, right? That because I value that thing, or what kind of things really piss you off, excuse my language, or make you upset. So if, whether it be somebody being late or not communicating in the workplace or the way they dress, it's because they're coming up against one of your values. And so once you start to understand what that is, then you'll understand what your motivations are, what you like to do, what your purpose is. There's just a whole lot tied to it. So I'm trying to start this movement because I think at the end of the day, we'll all be better off for it. So,
well, then, and that's a good place to jump off in. How do we start? I mean, what is the process? I mean, it sounds a little overwhelming, I think, to some. So how do we begin?
So I think we begin in the areas where we are experiencing the most unfulfillment. Right? For some people, it's work. For some people, it's a relationship. For some people, it's their finances. For some people, it's their religion.
And some people, it's all of the above.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are unsettled, and they're pretending to be settled because that's what they think other people want from them. So if you just look at areas in your life where you are experiencing unfulfillment, that's a good place to begin, because once you get one cogwheel going, then you get some practice in what that means to sort of live out your truth in that area. And it's easier because you're relieving some pain, which will make it easier for you to venture into other areas.
So is this a matter of going back to childhood and kind of digging through these? I mean, recently I had this whole experience where I was talking to a therapist, and I kind of ended up on the couch, and I realized how far back some of the issues that I have with my father go. And I didn't realize it was 13, that some of this stuff kicked off, and how, it has subsequently affected everything in my life.
So absolutely. I think, yes. Once you locate the point of pain, then you can do some exploration, right, into where did it come from.
Right.
That's just, identifying it is just one part. You can't necessarily fix it, right? But at least you have a source. But sometimes it really is just the pressures of this world, because, everybody wants to live their authentic selves, but then they're also now labeling other people. So it's the coin is on both sides, right? So if you're going to live authentically and someone else is living their truth, don't judge them for it, because then we're just perpetuating the same thing, right? Because then if they care what you think about them, then they're going to change their behavior. Thus, they're not living their truth, and then they're going to put the pressure back on you. So I think you do have to do some digging, but I wouldn't spend an exorbitant amount of time sort of going all the way back to childhood and what your mother did and what your father did. I think you locate it and you understand where it came from and what the behaviors are that made you that way, but you don't, dwell on that space. Then you just want to say, is this me, right, at my core, or is this just something that I've learned and a way I've become, but I'm not really comfortable in that space.
And I like the fact that you said that you need a kind of like a secure group of friends, I guess, or a comfortable group of friends to do this with, because it is hard. It's almost harder now that I know where it came from than I did before I understood it, because then you really have to deal with it. But as you said, when you figure out who you are authentically, it may be different than what your friends are used to, or your boyfriend is used to, or your children are used to. And how do you deal with that part of it?
Well, I think I do suggest having an accountability partner in your truth walk. You don't necessarily have to have a bunch of them. It's actually hard to have a lot of them because living authentically is not something to be taken lightly. It is a journey of complete understanding. You're going to need to share some things with this person that may be very uncomfortable and also may not be along the paradigm of what they know you as you mentioned. And so they're going to have to really have some open minds to explore with you and not judge. And because commentary is so important. When you tell a friend, I don't know, I dated a guy in college who had a girlfriend, if they go, oh my God, it makes you not want to ever say that. You're like, oh wait, I don't know, I was in college. Isn't that okay?
If that's the worst you've done, God bless you.
Exactly. So your accountability partner sort of needs to take the information and be able to throw back some relevant questions to you, but not label the decision, not say, oh, well, that was a good decision. No, we're not labeling. We're just sort of saying, this is the truth at the moment. What do I do with it? And how do I feel about it? Is it a truth I'm comfortable with, or is it something that I want to move beyond?
And the old saying goes, I guess, once you know better, you do better. So once you start getting some of these pieces and you start putting them together into your authentic self, how do you maintain it? Because it can be scary. It can be, it can be very scary.
Yes. Again, I think the accountability partner is so critical. The other thing is, from my own walk, it is only scary until you settle into the truth. Because the fulfillment of living your most authentic self kills the noise in the background. It really does. It just makes it irrelevant because it's your truth. It's when people are talking about you based upon something that isn't true, right? That is the thing that gets you going. Or if it's a truth you haven't owned up to, right? So it is a truth. But you either didn't want it to be true, right? It wasn't based upon your core values. But if it's based upon your value system, you don't care. You just get to a new level of confidence in your space in the world.
And so how radical, because you've walked people through this a lot, how radical can it be? Do people, go from corporate to then they're, selling milkshakes on the corner? How drastic can the change be? I think that's the other scary part, just the change.
It spans the gamut, right? Because there's, in the book, it talks about 7 areas: your finances, your spirituality, your relationships, all of that thing. So you can go from being in a relationship to not being in a relationship, or you can go from being in a terrible relationship to being in a better relationship, all because you decided to own your truth. In your finances, maybe you stop living into the expectations of others and you don't own the same clothes anymore. You're not going on the same vacations. Yeah. But guess what? You have a higher quality of life and more choices, right, because of that truth. And so what that the same folks don't hang around you because you don't now vacation in St. Bart's? Okay, but I bet you it feels so much better that vacation then it doesn't mean what it used to mean to you anymore.
And so walk us through a couple of the other steps, because you've identified, now you're starting to put some of the pieces together. How do you really bring it home?
Okay, so the first thing is to identify your point of pain, right? That's number one. The second thing is to definitely try to find an accountability partner. You can take this walk alone, but it's difficult because you start to second guess and question yourself, and you really need somebody who understands the language to be able to throw back. You say, no, don't judge that, just own it. And then once you understand that, then you want to start to really hone in on your top 5 values. This is in the book, not to peddle the book, but there's over 300 values in the book. And so it takes you through the process of getting down to your top 5, because those are your real button pushers. If you use your top 5 values to make every decision you make going forward in your life, whether you fail or you succeed, you will not have regret. You would do it the same way over again because it's based upon your core value system. So that's the third thing, is really understanding what those top 5 values are, and then setting yourself up for success by practicing living through them, right? Don't compromise your value system to fit the circumstance. The first time you do that, and I actually did it the first year that I started doing my business full time, I signed on a contract that was a big name. I knew I shouldn't have done it, and it didn't work out. But I know that this person and I didn't have the same values. It's not a good or a bad. They're not bad. I'm not good. It's just we didn't have the same value system. Right. And then looking at all the areas. So don't rush through the process, right? If your biggest point of pain is in your relationship, practice using your value system there, which is going to take a whole lot of communication. And then you want to start to revisit the other areas. And the reason why your accountability partner is so critical is because you will have a tendency to fall back. Expectations are in the air we breathe. We look at celebrities every day, even in our own lives. When you say something and a person goes, "Oh, I thought you were more conservative."
Right.
Out of it, but it's your truth, right? It's because they all of a sudden put a label on it that you feel like you want to change the label, right? So we want to stop chasing labels and just chase the truth.
And how important is people being their authentic selves to the bigger scheme of things? The way that the world works and how we're all supposed to fit into it.
I am just crazy enough to believe that if we all lived from our core, we would have some form of utopia. Because if the janitor at the high school, right, really if he looked at his value system, how he wanted to live, how he wanted to spend time with his kids, what he wanted the quality of his life to look like, and the janitor is what he wanted to do, and he was like the best janitor, we wouldn't look down on him. Actually, when he said he was giving his resignation, like probably all the teachers would petition and give part of their pay to keep him there because he would be doing what he's called to do. And so we would lose the misery, right? Because I think that's where, hateration or being a hater comes from, is that you're unsettled in your own truth. And because it's such a difficult process and because of the labels, it's dig through. So I think that if we all lived in our truth, we would just we would be kicking butt all over the place. And this kind of, what is my purpose? I was feeling down today, all of that. Not that we wouldn't have these swings, right? Be in the valley and on the mountaintop. But I just believe that we would just live at I know, right, from my own personal walk and for a few others, because it is a difficult walk, who are doing this, it's just a different way of living.
All right. Well, peddle the book some more. Where can we pick it up?
You can get the book on Amazon.com. Again, it is called The Things I Used to Do to Sneeze.
Look at you.
Yes. And it really is just about finding your authentic self in every area. And in addition to that, I've been asked a lot to do one-on-one coaching. And some people say, get over it. You are a life coach from afar, and that's fine. But as a career, I don't necessarily have the wherewithal to coach people one-on-one, so I'm starting these calls. It's The Things I Used to Do to Sneeze call series, and it will be, you can find it on monicacost.com, but the first one's actually tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and you can go to the website to register, where we'll be talking about different areas of authentic living every 2 weeks.
All right, so that would be January 10th. At what time again?
9 p.m. Eastern, and you can go to monicacost.com to register. And the theme of tomorrow's call is ending the waiting to your beginning.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate you always being available when I call.
Thank you so much.